Aces Interviews. Conversations to empower. Introducing Chickenshed.
Hello and welcome to Aces Interviews. Conversation to empower. I'm Leo, coach and speaker. I'm joined today by Mary Ward and Joe Collins, founder of Chickenshed, an inclusive Africa today. In 1974, the teaching and composer Joe met the teacher and director Mary. Joe believed that everyone who wanted should have a right to perform and create. They set up a pizza company on the farm and a disused chicken shed. 49 years old, created pizza for all ages and running successful outreach program, education courses and mentorship programs. Chickenshed took part in Britain's Got Talent, reaching the semi-finals and receiving the Influence Golden Buzzer. Thanks for joining me, Mary and Joe. Chickenshed have been running for almost 50 years. In that time, how have you seen the inclusivity of Chickenshed?
Well, I mean, not as much as we would like, but I think things are getting better. I noticed that, for example, on television, you notice that presenters, there's usually someone that has something about them that in the old days would rule them out. But now they're welcomed in, and I like that. That's nice because it keeps everything very broad and it makes life the way it should be, because everyone has a right to life and has a right to be who they want to be and do what they want to do. And I welcome that very much. But it could be better, I think.
I think particularly I think TV is making quite a lot of strides to include people with all sorts of disabilities in the casting. I think, I mean, the soaps now have, I don't watch the soaps, but I think one or two people within them have some sort of disability, some sort of label of some sort.
Yeah.
So that is slight progress, not brilliant progress, slight progress. But I think in mainstream theatre, live theatre, I'm not aware of many changes, particularly in the sort of established theatre like National Theatre, RSC, things like that. They still go for the elite actors who've been through, academic training with the
RADA.
whoever, RADA, Guildhall, the mainstream. And although I know that all these colleges they have to have an inclusive policy in terms of who they have on their course. They don't mix. It's weird. I met someone the other day and they said, well, yes, generally in the program there is a mix, but we don't work together. They work separately, which is complete ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that defeats the whole object.
It does.
Whole object of the thing.
I think they are a little bit box ticking.
Yeah.
Because they have to, take a certain inclusive mix, but they don't work together. So therefore, when you go and see anything at the National or what I call established theatre, you very, very rarely see anybody with any disability on the stage.
Yeah.
And also commercial theatre rarely, because I mean, the backstage situation in West End theatres is terrible anyway. There's no wheelchair access. There might be front of stage, but backstage, it's absolutely terrible. Even for people who have every, both legs, both arms, have their sight, have their hearing. It's a nightmare back there. It's like rabbit warrens backstage. I mean, it's health and safety. I don't know how they get away with it. I think it's because they're old theatres and they're allowed to carry on.
Yeah.
But there's no way anybody in a wheelchair would be able to access the West End Theatre backstage
No.
at all. I mean, they can, I think they can front of house now. And so that precludes them from being in shows, which, so really hasn't, as Mary says, hasn't moved as much as we would like it at all.
No.
And I think they miss out, basically.
Yeah.
You know, because
We've gained an awful lot
Mm,
from all the people that we've met
mm.
through having everybody come to us. So, I mean, it's wonderful, really, what we've learnt about life and about ourselves and what has been opened to us and open to our audiences. And I find that it's really wonderful for us, but it's tragic that more people aren't allowing themselves to have that experience.
We don't really want to be a unique theatre company, to be
No.
honest. Our message always is to say, work in this way, and with it, you get better art.
Yes.
You know, because as Mary said, we learn from each other. We learn from each other's differences.
Yes.
And that makes better theatre.
Yeah.
And actually a better world. So
And it's true, because it's truth.
yeah, exactly.
I was just thinking, it would be very interesting if Shakespeare was alive now, whether he would write some plays which celebrated inclusivity.
Well, actually, some of
He
these
probably
plays
do.
If you look at some of the cast lists, they do have, I don't know, man with limp or,
Yes.
or something
and
like that.
dwarf, small people.
Yeah, small people.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call them in those days,
Yeah.
but I reckon that because in Shakespeare's days, he did have a lot of the people on the streets
Yes.
joining the play. But now we, of course, have, what's the word? Not sterilised, but kind of like taken all that out and just had these actors that have all graduated from posh colleges, you know. So so it hasn't gone as far as we would like it.
I think it says a lot by the infrastructure, like you said, even the infrastructure for many places backstage is not at all accessible for anyone with any kind of disability.
Yeah.
We're already like kind of stopping it being in any way inclusive.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, do think the National and the Barbican probably do have disabled access. But you still don't see what I call an inclusive cast on stage. But, you know, as I say, the West End, there's no chance. They wouldn't have any chance being part of it.
I think a lot of it's because everything's about money. And it would take a lot of money to make everywhere accessible.
Yeah, that's right.
And they think they wouldn't get as much money in because people wouldn't want to see an inclusive cast.
That's misguided, isn't it?
Well, it's totally misguided.
Yeah.
But there we are.
As you say, there's definitely a long way to go.
Yes.
So my next question to you both is, what do you find empowering?
Well, I think it's empowering because I've been able to have the opportunity to work with people that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to work with if Chickenshed hadn't had its open policy. So I've learnt an awful lot, and that's made me feel empowered because it makes me much more in control of everything. And I think, oh, we can rule the world.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're not going to rule the world, but wouldn't mind changing the world.
Yeah.
So everybody just takes time to think about themselves and think about other people and about how they're going to interact together.
I mean, just thinking about empower, the word, I've seen lots of kids at Chickenshed who seem to have everything in terms of, you know, they might be middle class, they might have money, they might have good at school, they might be good looking or whatever. But they have like social problems for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And the way that we work is we have like groups, maybe they work in groups of 10 or whatever. And within that group, if someone needs some sort of guiding in some way, if they're blind or whatever, you put someone who has sight with that person to guide them around. Now, I can remember a story a long time ago, this boy who was one of these kids who had everything, struggled at school because he was so badly behaved. He just didn't work. And his parents were at a loss. And so they sent him to Chickenshed. And we put him with, I can't remember, was it someone who was blind or someone who needed to be supported physically? I can't remember. One of those things.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were in need of a person to support them. I think they were blind. I think they didn't have sight at all. And it just changed him completely, because he knew he was depended on. He felt worth. He had great self-worth because of it. Yeah, worth.
Yes.
I think he didn't appreciate any of the talents he had. He just behaved badly. He was kicking against the world, actually. And so we put him with this other person, and he changed almost within that session. He was never late because he knew this person depended on him. And it changed him, and it went through his schoolwork, his social interaction, and it empowered him to be a whole person, a much better person. And in fact, that individual, who shall be nameless, has got a very good career in the acting profession, and they're doing very well indeed.
Let's hope that he continues.
Well, I met him about 2 years ago, and he was still lovely then.
But is he saying to the people he's now working with, where's everybody else?
I don't know. Should ask him.
That's what's interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I think he was pretty, in his CVs in programs, he always puts Chickenshed. But the other empowering thing for me as a composer is that we had for many years in our company, I can name her actually, take it out if you want, but her name's Paula Reese. And she has cerebral palsy. She has no speech. She has no control over any of her limbs. But she can hear, and she's got an amazing brain, and she's very creative. And she joined us when she was young, because her mum recognised in Chickenshed that she would be welcomed.
Yeah.
And she wrote 4 lines with, they used to put a head pointer on, and in those days, electric typewriter. And painfully, she used to write letter by letter. And she wrote these 4 lines of poetry, to which I wrote a song, to which I wrote a tune. And then she continued to write, and we made her our writer in residence.
Yes.
Now, the thing about her was, because she'd never been trained academically, she never went to school. She learned everything by hearing it. And also she'd sit in her mum's lap and read the magazines, just learnt it completely by herself, amazingly. So the way she wrote was very unconventional. So like the first line might have like 6 beats, if you like, to it. Next one would have 2. And I'll give you an example. The one that we became our anthem, the first couple of lines were, "Every person has to be dead who does not believe in someone." That was the first line. Second line was, "I believe in you." You know, that's an example. And the song is called "We Need Each Other." And the words are incredible. But as a songwriter, I was not used to that. So for me, it brought a quality out in my writing that I'd never used before. So to use the word empower as a composer is totally fitting in that setting. And I think maybe even in direction with you.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. It just gave me more things to try, because the opportunity was there, you know.
Talk about Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, well, Midsummer Night's Dream, we did Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. And instead of having one actor playing the part of Titania, the fairy queen, we had 3 actors. that included Paula. And so that gave a lot more substance to the Fairy Queen, because you looked at this person that couldn't apparently move on her own, but yet was loving the language.
And her spirit
And
was
her
kind of there.
Spirit
wasn't
was empowering, that word again, empowering everybody. And actually we had 3 pucks as well.
it? Yeah, we did, yeah.
And yes, it is very much. And
So
I mean, I think now that I don't, because I'm retired, I think my brain needs really to carry on, because I desperately need to. I need to think, oh, we could do that, you know. So I think I miss it as a person.
Yeah.
Good question, Leo.
Yeah, I think like because Chickenshed does have general inclusivity, and also it means that you have to look at what you're doing differently. So when you say no, you one character was played by multiple people. That gives another dynamic that may not be used in other theatre.
It's never been, I don't think it's ever been done, 3 people in one ever before. I mean, talking about the Titania thing, because Paula wrote the words, she actually wrote, you know, her script, if you like. That's how confident she was.
Based on Shakespeare.
Based on Shakespeare. But so she wrote the words, I wrote the tune. And then this girl called Christine, who was our choreographer, was the body. So if you like,
With Paula. Yeah.
but if you like, so Paula was the soul of it.
Yeah.
Christine was the body of it, and I was the voice of it. And Puck was the same. We had Brendan, who had Down syndrome. Puck, he didn't really have a gift of speech, really, did he?
Couldn't.
But he had the gift of dance. It was amazing. So we had 2 guys that were the voice, and then he was the impish spirit, and they danced, the 3 of them.
Yeah.
But they almost danced as one.
Yeah.
And as you say, it does give much more of a dimension to the characters.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure, I feel positive saying Shakespeare would definitely have approved.
Oh, definitely. No, absolutely no doubt about that.
No.
At all.
So I want to move on to my next question, although I feel like you've been covering this pretty much anyway, but let's see what you think. So the question is, what difference was it you like to see or make in the world?
Well, yes. What difference would we like to make in the world? Well, I would like to, do you want to start?
No.
I would like that society took on our way of working together, being together. You know, I mean, working, we work in theatre, but we also socialise. It's a whole way of life. Trevor Nunn, who's a famous theatre director, said that Chickenshed was a glimpse of a perfect world. Glimpse of a more perfect world. Yeah. And so what differences would you like to make the world? Like it to be a little bit more perfect than it is.
Yeah, and a bit more than a glimpse.
Yeah, a bit more than a glimpse, yeah. I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the world. I don't know whether they work inclusively, whether they have inclusive society. I don't really know. I think parts of Scandinavia probably do, actually. They're quite forward thinking. But in terms of the world, let's just concentrate on the UK. I mean, it doesn't happen. Society does not work inclusively. It's exclusive, you know. And although we do have, we have the Paralympics, don't we? It's still separate.
Even that's separate.
Yeah. It's still saying, okay, here are the Olympics and here are the Paralympics. You know, I don't know. I just don't get it.
Takes a lot of thought, and I think that's what people are
Yeah,
prepared to do.
it's a seismic change.
Yeah,
Would
I mean,
have to happen,
yeah.
really.
And when you start to think about it, I mean, Paralympics, you know, you've got Usain Bolt who runs 100 meters in 9 point or whatever, you know, you won't be able to get a Paralympian running that fast. So how would you do that? You know, it really does take.
Because it's so much about physicality, isn't
Yeah.
it, sport? But anyway, but I think that I do think that Chickenshed, because we perform, we have thousands of people coming through the doors every week. We do change people's attitudes when they come and see a show.
Yeah.
They come and see a show, they see an inclusive cast, and then they come into the bar afterwards and they see the cast mixing and some kind of sights they wouldn't see anywhere else. You know, I mean, we teach our students, we've got one girl at the moment who has to be fed through a tube. And, you know, we train our students to do that so that they're working with their peers. And if an individual needs care in a particular direction, then their peers do it rather than a member of staff, you know, so that they feel they're not losing out to their friends. If they had to go to a special place with a member of staff to be fed, that would affect the social interaction between the groups.
I think a good word is care as well.
Yeah, and kindness.
Care, yes, care and kindness.
Yeah,
definitely, because we all need to care and to be cared for. We all need that.
We all need it, yeah.
And I think that's all that Chickenshed is
demonstrating. Yeah. So, you know, we'd love to change the world. We think we are a tiny bit.
Yeah, I would say more than a tiny bit. And yet I thought I would bring it back at the end that I know that Chickenshed recently appeared on The Riching Great Talent, reaching the semi-finals. I mean, that's about that. That experience, like.
Well, we didn't actually physically go, but the group that went, I think they felt the effect they had on the other people competing and the panelists and the audience. That filled them with pride, you know. They felt very, very proud of the work we do in Chickenshed. Obviously, the night they got the golden buzzer was brilliant. They were high as anything, high as kites. But truly and honestly, they cared more about spreading the word about how we work than they did about win. They didn't intend to win. They didn't want to win particularly. That wasn't their main purpose. Their purpose was, look, let's show what way we work, the way it works, and it does work. Let's try and show that to a few million people, which I think the figures are around about 2 to 3 million on Britain's Got Talent, something like that. Yeah. So it did it did spread the word. It did lots of good. I mean, our website was completely jammed and we had to have a waiting room website set up. We had loads and loads of responses to it. So it has done us good. It's made people think, you know.
Great. Well, I wish we could get on talking, but as I said, I did try and keep these not too long.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, Joe and Mary. Where and how can people find out more about Chickenshed?
The best way is definitely the website. And obviously there's other links to all the other media. But the website is obviously chickenshed.org.uk.
Great, and I'll share the website and also the social media links with this interview. So thanks again, and thanks to everybody who watched this. Check out all the other conversations and find out more about my coaching and speaking at leo80.co.uk, and 80 Interview will be back soon with another powerful conversation. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching Ace's interviews. Find out more about Chickenshed in the show notes. Don't forget to like, subscribe and follow.